Welcome to another episode of Beyond the Bar. I'm your host, Devon Grogans, here with co-host Tommy John, and we got a good one for you today. Today, we're going to talk about um, bodybuilders make people hate bodybuilders. And so we're going to dive into that. Initial thoughts on the topic before I hit you with some bullet points, Tommy.
Yeah, it's unfortunately true. And anyone that asks me about bodybuilding, I make a joke about it, but I say it's one of the dumbest things we can do. And I think it's completely silly. I think it's a waste of time, energy, and money. I think it can ruin relationships. I think there's a ton of negative things that come from bodybuilding. But the thing is, I love it so much and I would never change what I do. I I gladly throw my money at it and because it's brought me so much, right? So people know that I often joke about bodybuilding. It's not even a sport, right? It's totally just a fashion show and things like that. It's a beauty contest and um I will be the first one to make fun of bodybuilding. I will certainly be the first one to defend it, on the
Absolutely.
same token. So, yeah, um, bodybuilding does make people hate bodybuilders. So, go ahead and with your first bullet point, let's dive into that one.
Yeah. And I think just to kind of touch on what you had already said, I think there's something to be said about, yes, it is a silly hobby, but a lot of hobbies are silly,
Mhm.
and could be arguably listed as time wasters and money pits and things like that. But I think there's something to be said about doing a prep, not even a show, but doing a prep leading up to a show in the amount of mental toughness and resilience that is forged in doing that is something that unless you've done it, nobody else understands. And
Mhm.
the funny thing about it, and I say funny, but it's really not, is we put ourselves through it. It's it's 100% choice. Like
Yeah.
the door's right there. You can leave at any point in time.
Yeah.
Here's your ripcord. Pull
Yeah.
it, done. You
Yep.
don't have to do this. But there's something to be said, whether you get first place, last place, step on stage and decide to never do it again. There is almost a brotherhood, so to speak, of just having completed that. And it's something that a lot of people will never know or experience. I've
Yeah.
played a lot of sports
Yeah.
growing up,
Mhm.
and I've gone through, the football camps, the two-a-days, and that definitely helped. But when I did my first prep, there was nothing like it. It was
Yeah.
me. There was nobody else to lean on. My wife helped a lot, but as far as at the end of the day, you're the one that decides, no, I'm not going to eat that. Um, if it's not on my list, I'm not eating it. Yes, I'm going to wake up early. You decide to do all these things. There's nobody there to save you.
Yeah. Well, it's like when you're backstage and you see someone's face just sunken in, their glutes are dug out, right? You just look at that and you like, that wasn't easy for you. you know,
Yeah.
you earned that, you suffered for that. Um, and most people in the audience won't even realize that. They'll just judge what's in front of them.
Yep.
But a bodybuilder, viewing another bodybuilder and you see, some of this conditioning and you see some of the transformations and things like that. And all you can think is like, man, I've been there. I know what that person's feeling to a point, right? Because some people, it's harder for some people than others also. Um, but man, it's not easy for anyone, that's for sure.
Well, let me ask you this. I had some bullet points, but everything you're saying brought up some good questions that I wanted to
Mhm,
kind of throw your way and get your
mhm,
opinions on. Um, Bodybuilding used to be like for the outliers. It was the weirdos, the people that were crazy. I mean, it was, guys that had other guys posted up on their wall in underwear, so to speak, and people are
mhm.
like, why are you doing that? And I feel like with social media, especially now, it's become so mainstream that it's now the cool thing to do. And I feel like a
Mhm.
lot of people are really jumping on board. Um, and so I'm curious, what are your thoughts on just the different level of attention, where kind of things are at right now, and how you feel it's changed in both positive and negative light in being so kind of under the spotlight right now.
Yeah, so I have a lot of thoughts on this, and I'll keep them consolidated. But my first one is I was very, very jaded towards the whole idea of social media bringing such popularity to bodybuilding. Because, like you said, we were the kids in our bedroom looking at magazines, hanging the posters on the wall, hanging the Metrex posters and the Muscle Tech posters and things like that. Yeah, we were putting those on there. It's like yeah, so at first I was just very jaded because it was the rebellious thing to do. It was that's since I was a kid, that's the type of thing I always liked doing. I was a skateboarder, I
Hmm.
liked doing things that were on the edge, a little raw, a little unorthodox, um, and kind of an extreme type clique of people too, right?
Oh yeah.
Powerlifting, bodybuilding, skateboarding,
Yep.
all that
I
stuff.
rode BMX and snowboarded,
Yep.
so
Yeah, and it's like when you like a band and then the band becomes popular, you feel like jaded for some reason. Um, but then the other side of me steps back and there's one we're just we just live in a different time. Social media is the magazines now. So
it
is it
is.
really that different from what we were brought up on? I don't know. Um, Now the exposure seems greater, but maybe it's just greater exposure to us in general as well, right? Because we are on social media too. But don't tell me there's not hundreds of thousands of people bodybuilding in their basements right now, and they haven't made one post on social media anywhere, right?
Oh yeah.
They're out there. They're out there. I know that because I was one for so long. I just recently, made a social media once I LLC'd my business.
Mhm.
Um, I felt obligated to make one, to help myself grow the business, and,
I mean,
um
it wouldn't make sense not to. I mean, like you said, that is the new magazine. That's where people are going.
yeah,
I do outside of my training, I do marketing, and
yeah,
I can tell you right now, uh, Instagram and Facebook have surpassed Google
yeah,
in total number of searches, which means they are the new search platforms. That's where people are going to get their information. So it only
yeah.
makes sense as a business to be there.
Well, and here's another positive, um, light that I can shed on it is now the accessibility for us to reach so many more people and help them,
Hmm.
that's huge, dude, right? Like, who helped us, right? You have a select few people that would, take you under their wing in the local gym. Then you start, they'll start telling you about their friend that coaches them. Maybe you'll get their email address or something like that. Um, and then you have spots like T Nation, Elite FTS, kind of the the forums online. Those are all the places we started. But now, like, it's good and it's bad, but there's a lot of avenues to get help on how to do all this stuff, how to do it safely, how to do it efficiently and effectively, and save yourself a lot of time. Um, I think you and I, from where we started, we probably wasted. Maybe I don't want to use the word wasted, but we definitely spent a lot more time than some people have to now.
Oh
Um,
yeah. I told my wife, we had a conversation about this the other day, and I basically said, like, if I knew now what I knew then, I would have shaved 5 years off of my training career.
mhm,
Like, I probably
mhm,
would have already had my pro card.
mhm,
um my business probably would have been beyond the point that it's at now, but like you said, everything was touch and go. Like, you were learning as you were doing, and if you were fortunate enough to be under the wing of somebody who truly knew what they were doing, because again, there was no other outlet. So if somebody said, hey, let me introduce you to someone, if they were bigger than you or in a further position than you, then you assumed that they knew what they knew.
Yeah,
I look back at some of the things that my first coach told me, and I'm like, why did I even do that?
sure.
Um, I would have never done some of those things that I was doing back then or had my clients do. And so yeah, it has definitely streamlined the ability for people to get on stage. And I think the negative aspect to that is that a lot of these younger people, because it's streamlined them getting to stage, they're jumping into gear a lot sooner. I
Yeah.
worked with one client who 21 years old, and he was like, "Hey, I want to run a cycle for this prep." I'm like, "Why? Like
Yeah.
you've never bodybuilded in your life. Like this
Yeah.
is your first prep. Why don't you do it? See if you like it, build for a couple of years, and then make that decision." I think
Mhm.
everybody now, because of how mainstream not only the sport, but I feel like it's gotten so lax in people talking about gear and doing all of those things, that it's not taken as seriously to the degree that it was before. In the past, that was a big decision. It
Mhm.
wasn't just like, I mean, people now, liken taking testosterone to taking their protein shakes. It's like,
Mhm.
no,
Mhm. Yeah.
no. And so
Yeah.
with this kid, he's 21 years old, and he's finally just got to the point where he was going to make the decision. I said, fine, like if this is what you're going to do, I'm going to help you do it safely. This
Yeah.
is how we're going to do it. He ran probably 2.5 to 3 times what we had talked about, and rolled into the show, looked like complete dog shit.
Yeah.
I'm trying to pull out every stop I can. We're trying to mitigate super high estrogen,
Yeah.
acne's coming up, and I'm like, dude, what? I need you to be 100% honest and tell me, what are you taking? And he was like, well, I'm only taking testosterone. I said, how much? Well, 650.
Mm.
Okay, we discussed 200. You're not taking any AIs, you're not taking anything else. You're 21 years old, so your
Yeah.
your testosterone's already really high.
Yeah.
And it's just like, I think a lot of these kids don't understand the ramifications, nor do they understand, like, the importance of building a base. I see
Yeah.
so many people that just don't build a base, and they have what I call drug muscle. Like
Yeah.
they get huge, and the minute they stop training or the minute they jump off the gear, like everything is lost because it was all built on a rocky foundation. There was
Yeah.
nothing solidified, and then they decided to go to the next level. It was
Right.
just like Candyland, and let's take the secret staircase or whatever.
Yeah. And here's the other thing is, what do you do when you get stuck, when you never learn how to train through a plateau or how to eat through a plateau? What's the only lever you have to pull once you're not making progress anymore?
Supplements.
Supplements, right? Slam more gear, and eventually, you're only going to be able to take so much gear before it's just not it's not gonna it's not going to work right anymore. I had very similar story to the one you just told. The kid came to me. He already had the gear on hand, and he's like, "Okay, I'm ready to start this." And I said, "I'd prefer you don't. Let's get the diet dialed in."
Yeah.
I literally just wanted him to prove to me that he could follow a diet for 3 weeks, dude. I was
Mhm.
going. He was like, he was 24, so sure, I mean, 24 years old, you're a grown up. He lived on his own. He can make those decisions for himself. That's fine. He couldn't even prove to me for 3 weeks that he could stay on plan, and he just kept asking me, Is this the week? And can I start now?" I'm like, "No, dude, not yet." I wanted his goal. He came to me pretty heavy. His body fat percentage was pretty high, and I just wanted to see some progress without
Yeah.
any gear, right? That's all I was hoping for. And in it, I just wanted to see a pound of fat loss without any
Right.
gear. Like, okay, this kid is actually he's following the plan, he's doing the cardio. Um, because if you're not doing those other things, the gear's only going to get you so far, right?
Oh yeah, if that. And I mean, it's funny because people don't realize the amount of people that are actually running gear, and
Mhm.
90% of the time running way higher than those that compete,
Yeah,
and look beyond, or not even beyond, look well under just your average gym goer.
it's
And it's
probably
because,
like 85% of the people in your gym are taking something,
yeah, but
and
they're
you can
not
look.
following a good diet. They're
Yeah,
not
yeah,
following a good program, and they're just taking gear thinking it's going to be a magic bullet, and it's not.
yeah. Yeah, it's in supplement to, in addition to doing everything else right, you know? That's how all that stuff works. And don't get me wrong, I love gear as much as the next guy, but I make sure I do all the other things so that I
Hmm.
can take my gear and feel
Yep.
happy about it, and I can stay healthy while I do it, right? Because I create that environment through doing all the other things. And if those other things aren't dialed in, I don't even bother taking my stuff.
Yep.
I don't even bother. Like when we talked about getting sick. I don't take anything when I'm sick. I don't care to. I'm just like,
Yeah.
eh. I'm just like, I can't do anything else. I can't. I can't eat my food if I don't have an appetite. You know, I'm not training. I'm not hydrating well. You know, I'm not doing cardio. So, um, I'm not taking that stuff when I'm sick. You know,
Yeah.
I'll slowly work it back in when I'm feeling better. You know,
Hmm.
so yeah, that's like I said. At first, I was very, very negative about social media because you and I are old school guys, and often make the joke, and I don't mean to. I probably shouldn't, but I think if social media disappeared, um, half the NPC would be gone,
Oh, I'm
if
sure.
if not more. 60% maybe of all competitors would be done.
Yeah.
And I say it as a joke, but there is, in my opinion, some truth to that. Um, but you know, I really have to slow myself down and think, you know, should I really judge people for that? I don't know, because I just didn't grow up in that demographic. So I don't know that I wouldn't be exactly the same way. Um, it's kind of like people getting upset about Sam Solik, and I'm like, well, why? The kid just does
Yeah.
everything we did. He just happened to monetize it on the internet and become rich from it.
Yeah.
So
And he
really,
did it
we're
a
the
slightly
silly
different
ones.
way.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, exactly. But yeah, people get really upset about him, and um, I'm like, man, I think the kid's great. I love him.
Yeah.
I love seeing him succeed. I think it's so much because you and I were 21 once, and however old he is, I apologize if I'm wrong, but um, we our diets weren't great, dude. We trained really hard, really heavy with an ego, and but the dude's so humble. He's such a nice kid, and he would take his shirt off his own back and give it to someone else. I guarantee he would. And so, how can you be mad at a dude like Sam Solik? Well, you're mad at him because of social media and just the exposure of people hating on him, and you jump on board or you don't. You know, it doesn't seem like there's any in between. People love or hate that kid, and
Yeah.
it's just like it's unfortunate, you know.
And it's so funny, and it all ties back to bodybuilders make people hate bodybuilders, and it's
Hmm.
funny in an industry that used to be so exclusive that now it seems like the whole industry is flipped. Everybody talks shit about each other. The big thing right now with the Arnold Classic, two of the top men's physique
Sure.
competitors
Hmm.
said they were going to pull out because of the statements that Arnold has made almost every single year
Yeah.
about men's physique being ridiculous.
Hmm.
Um, and it's like, as a men's physique athlete, I could not agree more. Like, I do everything that an open bodybuilder does,
Yeah.
with the exception of pound more food.
Yeah.
Um, and it's like, what, because my legs aren't fully judged. I train legs, but because they're not fully judged, that makes me not a bodybuilder. Now I get it.
Right.
When you want to talk about the Olympia and you say Mr. Olympia, yes, you are specifically talking about the open
Yeah.
bodybuilders.
That's different. Yeah.
That is different. And that's why most of the people that win the Olympia outside of that will say your men's physique Olympia winner and not Mr. Olympia.
Yeah.
But
Of course. Yeah.
to the point is, there's just it feels like there's just so much hate swirling around an industry that used to be already so tight knit that it's just really made it hard to
Mhm.
want to be a part of.
Yeah, and social media exacerbates that
Yeah.
too. It's like yeah, I that's some of the negative stuff. And um again, that's bodybuilders teaching other bodybuilders to hate each other. It's
Yeah.
like, um, when you really boil it down, like we're all doing the same thing, like you just said. It's not easier for the men's physique guy, It's not easier for the bodybuilder. It's not harder for the bodybuilder. It's just a different thing,
Yeah.
and just because they're competing on the same weekend, um, doesn't mean that one is any better than the other, or you know because one category does not require you to show their legs, right? So
Hmm.
what, you know what I mean? It's like, that's part of the credentials, is this is the suit you wear, look the best in this suit.
Yeah, and it's come a
So
long way. The original
yeah,
board shorts were true board shorts, like
yeah, all
down
the way
past the
under the
knee.
knee. Yeah,
Yeah, now
yeah,
they're way more fitted. They're at or above the knee. And it's, it is what it is, but it's
yeah.
like, I don't know. And that kind of goes into the second point, which is, and I think it was Dusty Hanshaw said this on one of the uh podcasts that him and Scott do. And
Mhm.
it was, there's no defense in bodybuilding.
Right.
Like so many times I see it posted and people backstage, just have this attitude about them, like they're getting ready to go into a football game. And it's
Yeah,
like there's no defense here. Like you've
yeah,
done everything you could do. I've done everything I can do. Now we go step on stage and basically just see who the judge thinks looks the best.
yeah, yeah. And that's the silly part about it.
Yeah.
That's where I make jokes about it, because
Yeah,
it's like,
it's not powerlifting. It's not,
no.
and it's funny because my son the other day was like, "I want to be big and strong like a bodybuilder." I said, "Son, my job is to look like I'm big and strong." I said, "You want to see big and strong? We'll go watch a powerlifting meet." He's,
Yeah,
"Are they strong?" I said, "Yes, they get measured on their strength." "Well,
yeah,
you're strong too." "Yes, I am strong, but I'm not measured on my strength. When I hit the stage, nobody cares how much I bench, squat, or deadlift.
mhm,
They're getting points based off of the amount of weight that they lift. When
right,
you earn more points than the next person, you win. It's that simple." And he was like,
yeah,
"Oh."
yeah. It's like scoring more baskets,
Yeah,
I even joke about powerlifters not being athletes too, but that's a whole nother conversation. And I'm allowed to joke about it because I was a powerlifter, right?
right.
So, yeah, no, that's exactly, to conclude it, like that's the issue, is um those attitudes that come with everything. And like, yeah, I'm going to war, I'm gonna outpose the guy next to me. It's like, really, are you, like, are you gonna squeeze your muscles harder? Stop it. You know what I mean? It's like, just go enjoy, like, what the competition is. Go have fun, otherwise don't do it. You
Yeah,
don't, no one's making you do it, like you said. Like, um and that's my favorite thing to tell my clients, is there's no defense.
yeah,
Because, like, yeah, I'm gonna win this show. It's like, you could, yeah, but let's just bring your best look,
yep,
because we don't get to pick the guys that show up, and sometimes there's gonna be guys that show up, and you're gonna see them walking through the parking lot, and you're just gonna be like,
mhm,
oh shoot. I guess,
yeah,
you know we Skip and I competed at a show in Chicago, and I get there, and dude, I looked good. I was in shape. I was ready to go. And then I see Austin Stout rolling in, and I'm like, oh, cool. Here's at minimum second place, right?
yeah,
I'm like, I'm not beating Austin Stout. I say that with honor. Even to be able to stand next
yeah,
to him was cool. Um, but Skip, could see that I was anxious and upset and things like that. And he brought me, back over, to the corner. And he's like, listen, dude, he's like, I used to compete against Phil Heath. He's
Mhm.
like, when you see that guy walking in backstage, and you just like, oh, I didn't know he was gonna be here. Damn. And
Right.
he's like, just don't worry about it. He's like, just go have fun. Let's go play your show, you
Yep.
know, do your thing. And we can't control when the Austin Stouts show up and when the Phil Heath show up. We can't control any of that. And if you want to control that, then don't bodybuild. That's
Yep.
the solution, right?
And I found that in doing that and having that approach and just going and having fun, because I mean, again, I came from a sports background, so to me, my first few shows, and I've done 3, 6, 9, 12, somewhere around 12 shows. The first couple, I was backstage, headphones on, and it was the same mentality that I had right before like a big football game or baseball game.
Hmm.
And then I thought, why? Like,
Hmm.
we're all here for the same thing. We're all doing, yes, it's a competition. Yes. But when I started having fun, I
Yeah,
built so many more relationships with so many great people that to this day I talk to. And prior to that, would have never even known existed outside of that show.
yeah,
But having traveled, all over for shows now, like building those relationships and being able to do those sorts of things, it's been a far better experience
yeah.
every time I went to a show than to just sit there with my headphones on in the corner with a look on my face like don't come talk to me.
Yeah, I don't I'll sometimes treat training like that. You
Oh,
know, I'll
training,
I'll
absolutely.
I'll treat a training session like that, often. But,
Yeah.
like, dude, I don't compete like that.
No.
Half the times, I don't even bring headphones with me.
Yeah.
I just sit,
By
I
the time you're at the show, it's out of your hands. There is nothing you are going to do that
yeah,
is going to fix I mean, you could hurt the way you look, but there's nothing
sure.
that's going to make
True.
you look any better at that point.
No,
I don't care how
very,
many rice
very
cakes with
marginal
peanut butter and
things.
honey you
Yeah,
slam,
yep,
or, what your magic this or that is. Like, by the time you're at the venue, your look is damn near your look with a
yep,
very, very slight change, maybe.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
So just
and
go have fun.
yeah, like you said, it's just and it gets rid of all that anxiety when you just go talk to a few people and you
Yeah.
realize, I don't know, it's just so much. I've met so many cool people backstage, and if I was buried in my headphones sitting in the corner, like, listening to Slipknot, like, it's just you're missing out on the whole moment. You're missing everything because
Yep.
you're in your own little thing. Um, and yeah, you just miss the point of all of it. If you want to be like that leading up to the show, prepping for it, and that's how kind of how I am. But the competing part of it, yeah, I don't do any of that, dude. I go meet people, I have fun,
Yeah.
Um, I don't know. I just not everything has to be so serious, especially on competition day. The work is already done. Why add anxiety, right?
Yeah. Why
It's
raise cortisol levels? You want to ruin your look, have high cortisol.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's so true. Yeah.
So no, but I think that's really good. And to wrap up this topic, the biggest thing is, when it comes to bodybuilding, don't be an asshole. Like, don't, yes, it is still fairly exclusive, but I think welcoming those that want to do it, be a guide to those that are new. All that when you're backstage, because we're kicking off show season now. A lot of people are either in prep or getting ready to prep. Take your training serious, have fun when you're at the show. Like, it's an enjoyable experience.
Yeah. Yeah, it should be, right? And if it's not, then um you shouldn't do it. You don't
Yeah,
have to. Be a lifestyle guy and just look good all year round, right?
absolutely.
Just
That's where
look
I'm at right now.
awesome. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you're living the life. That's like who wouldn't want to be around 10% year round, strong in the gym, you know, healthy balance in all your relationships. That's what the lifestyle should be. And yeah, go live that life if you still want to be a bodybuilder but not get on stage. You're doing all the same stuff anyways. The only thing that changes is the last 8 weeks.
Yep.
Otherwise, it's all the same. It shouldn't be any different. You should all be doing the same stuff besides the last 8 weeks leading up
Love
to a
it.
show.
Love it. Love it. Well said. You want to jump into some questions?
Yeah, let's do that. Yeah, we had some good ones in there, I think.
Yeah, we got a couple. So the first one, let me see here. All right, we'll pick up right where we last left off from the last Q&A. So, how do we coach for push phases? Are we looking for a certain rate of weight gain per week as long as conditioning holds, or is there another metric? And what does the transition phase look like usually?
Okay. This is funny because if my memory serves me, I think this is one of my clients.
Mhm.
Um, so they know all the metrics I'm looking for because they're on their check-in form, right? And there's lots of metrics, um, as simple as biomarkers like blood glucose, blood pressure, sleep scores, resting heart rate, et cetera, et cetera. It's all in my check-in form.
Yep,
Appetite, right? You know, digestion, mental health ratings, all of these things are in the check-in form. So I'm using all of those things. I don't
mhm,
ask for those just for fun. I don't want to waste anyone's time.
yep,
Um, I put all of those things in my check-in form because I use every single one to
same.
determine the next adjustment to make, right?
Yep.
Um, as far as a progression in specific weight gain that I'm looking for, I don't
Yeah,
have one.
is there a rate of gain that you look for?
Yeah, no, absolutely not.
That
Because I've had guys, I have this one guy in particular. I'll save him embarrassment. I won't name him, but Devon, he just grows and grows and grows. Sometimes he's gaining 3 pounds a week, and I can still see glute lines. Like on stage, he was around like 165. He was like 205 this morning. Just as I could put him on stage in 2 weeks.
yeah.
And Skip and I joke we call that the Paul Barnett effect, where you just
Right.
get a guy so darn lean and you just prime them for
Hmm.
this what people consider magic, and it's not, but there's something to it. There's something there.
Yeah.
So yeah, this guy in particular, no, I'm not looking for anything besides that. You know, Pretty much every time he checks in, I either add more food or I just say, keep doing what you're doing. Let's
Yep.
repeat it one more week.
And I think that's a funny point because I have a lot of clients right now that are in a push phase. Um,
So boring.
and I have to constantly remind them
Yeah.
this is the most boring thing you will do because they'll get in that pocket where I have a female client
Hmm.
who we ripped about 80 pounds off of her,
Hmm.
started feeding, strength started going up. She's now loading 5 to 6 meals. I think I have her loading like all day Saturday plus her first or last meal on
Yeah.
Sunday. Her weight has held at 210 for almost 6 weeks, and I've
Yep.
slowly been adding food. And if her weight bumps up a pound or two above where I want to keep it, I'm like, hey, let's just ride this through another week, no changes. And then boom, it's right back to where it was. And I told her, I'm like, you are in a solid pocket of growth because every week she's been getting progressively stronger. I'm like, I really don't want to change much because I don't want to push you out of it. And I'm sure you've seen it before where
Hmm.
it doesn't take much, where you're feeding somebody, feeding somebody, feeding somebody, and then all of a sudden it's like they got fat overnight. And
Yeah.
so,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
so I have a few clients right now that are just in that pocket, and I have to keep reminding them, like, this is the most boring thing we are going to do, but I promise you it is working.
Yeah.
Um, so no, I'm glad that you had mentioned like making little to no changes. The other thing is people expect when they're newer, I feel like, and maybe you've seen this too, but they liken a push or a bulk to weight loss. Like they think they have to be gaining 1 to 2 pounds a week. It's like, no, no, no,
Yeah.
no. When we're losing weight, a lot of that is water. Yes, we're losing fat, but it's much more simple to see 1 to 2 pounds come off a week when we're pulling food out than when we're adding it in because a lot of that is Yes, you're going to store glycogen. Yes, you're going to store more water, but depending on where you're at, you could also be storing fat. So we don't necessarily need to see a weight gain week to week if all of, to your point, the other biomarkers are where they need to be.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, it's and the I call it a problem. It's not a problem because
Mm.
we all share this feature, um, as, athletes and things, with our types of personalities. Most bodybuilders, in a way, have similar personalities, in my
Mhm.
opinion. Um, but we wanna change things so frequently. This is why everyone needs a coach, because the coach will slow you down.
Yep.
Like, or the coach will take you further than you would have taken yourself.
Yeah.
When people come to me, Devon, and they want to get lean, I get them leaner than they ever even knew was
Oh, yeah.
possible for themselves, because they would never would have taken themselves there, because they look in the mirror and they're like, "Oh, I'm getting kind of skinny." It's like, "No, dude, you're like, unfortunately, you're still fat,
Yeah.
and we're going to get you non-fat, fat-free,
Mhm.
and I'm going to show you what being actually respectfully lean is, and I'm going to challenge you." And if you're not ready for that, I'm not your guy, because that's where I want to push people. I want to take them to a spot where they didn't think it was possible for them to get to.
And
Um,
that's what a good coach does.
yeah, it's the number one compliment I get. That's the number one compliment I receive from my clients is, Tommy, I would have never gone this far without you pushing me here.
Mhm.
And I'm like, you would have. It's just easier when someone else is telling you to do it, because I can't feel your hunger. I know
Yeah.
you're hungry. I can see it. I can see it in the biofeedback, but I know when to add some food back in, and I
Mhm.
know when to refeed you. I know when to skip load you. I know when to do these things. You, most of the time, clients are bad decision makers on their own.
Yep.
And that's why they need a coach. That's why they came to us, in the first place, because they should be able to admit, I am not a good decision maker. And that's okay, because let me take care of this. You can focus on all the other areas in life where you are a good decision maker.
Yep.
It's just when it comes to nutrition, exercise, cardio, supplements, you're not a good decision maker. That's okay. Let me be that decision maker for you. That's why I always have a coach.
Yep.
Tommy, why don't you do your own prep? Why would I?
Yeah.
Why would I? Because I can go hire someone else to take all that stress away from me, and I can focus on my clients and just checking boxes.
Mhm.
That's why I'll always have a coach, because, I just I want that part done for me, and all I have
Yeah.
to do is execute, and then
Yep.
I can make the decisions for other people, because I am a better decision maker when I'm making those decisions for other people than when I'm doing it for myself.
Mhm. Absolutely. I'm the
And
same way.
I figured you were. Yeah,
Yeah.
I figured you share that too, because we're very similar in many ways, and yeah, like, I can definitely make decisions better for other people. But yeah, to directly answer this question, um, what exactly are we looking for? Nothing exactly. We're looking at everything.
Yep.
Everything matters. Um, your gym performance matters. The look, the composition matters. That's we have all these different levers to pull, whether it's supplements, pulling back on training, pulling back on cardio, adding food. There's so many dials on the mixing board, right? And that's all we're doing is twisting dials, pulling levers, and we're making the decisions for you guys so you don't have to. And that's why when you see our clients and you see their transformations, um, that's why they're so dramatic, because someone else is steering the ship, and the good clients are just putting in the work and just executing the plan.
Absolutely. There's a second part to that too. And or they ask, how do you handle fatigue from increase in carbs and anabolics? I've been dealing with extreme fatigue outside of the gym post workout while in my current mass phase.
I mean, it's kind of part of it. Unfortunately, um, when you're in
If you're
prep,
yeah, if you're training harder, you're
yeah,
typically gonna be a little bit more exhausted. Um, for
and you're
me,
just heavier. You're just
yeah,
carrying more person. It's exhausting, you know?
I think mitigating your training, making sure that if you need to pull back to 3 days a week, pull back to
Mhm,
3 days a week. You're not going to grow while you're in the gym. You're going to grow while you rest.
yeah,
So if you find that you're too tired throughout the day, on most days, if you're training 5 days a week, pull back to four. If you're training
mhm,
four, I wouldn't go any less than three, but go less than three. The other question that I would ask this person was, when was the last time you had a deload? And
yep,
are
and
you
that's it.
deloading? Because your body is probably at a point where it just simply needs a break.
Yep,
Give it a
and
week where you either
that's
take
in,
training off completely, or you go in 3 days a week and train at about 60, 70%, get a good pump and get the hell out.
yep, that's in my check-in form. I make them put a date. When was your last deload? Um, and yeah, um there's multiple factors that come into play. Why do I feel tired during my push phase? Well, you're eating more food.
Hmm.
You're a heavier person in general. You're carrying more body. You likely are doing less activity than you were before.
Yep.
So you're naturally slowing down because you're not doing the cardio and the steps like you should be, or you're not putting an emphasis on them. You know, a lot of people they stop doing their neat, their non-exercise activity, because they're massing or bulking or whatever you want to call it. Um, Keeping up with those things actually improves energy, and it helps keep you insulin sensitive. It helps keep you in motion. So really, like, when I'm trying to put on muscle, I still have fat burning in the back of my mind,
Hmm.
right? So when I'm doing cardio, I'm doing it with intent.
Yep.
And when I'm have time to do my steps, I'm doing my steps. And I'm doing all the other recovery modalities as well. People get lazy in the off season because they stop doing all the other things, all the fun prep stuff, waking up early, going on a morning walk,
Hmm.
parking the car further away so you can sneak in extra steps, and then vice versa. When you get in towards the end of prep, people stop doing the stuff. They
Hmm.
stop doing the steps
Laying
and all.
around more. Yep.
Yeah, yeah, my fat loss is slowing down. Like, no, brother, you're slowing down. Like,
Yeah.
yeah, that's you got to keep up with that stuff.
Yep.
So yeah, that's why it's called a lifestyle. That stuff stays in year round. It's always
Yep.
important.
You just dial it up or dial it down depending on where you're at.
Yeah, exactly.
I love it. All right, here's a fun. We got a couple more, but we'll wrap with I think it's coming up on about an hour. Um we'll wrap with this one, but there's a couple other good questions we'll get in next time. So if we didn't get yours, I promise we'll get to it on the next episode. When lifting with a partner or friend, just a one-off session, you guys both have set programs or splits. How do you decide what exercise or muscles to hit?
You go first. I'm curious on your answer.
All right, so if it's the first thing I'll take into consideration is, am I in prep or are they in prep? If I am in prep, then I will typically lead with, hey, if we're training on this day, this is where I'm at in my program. However, I'm not so fixed on moving things around that I will typically just ask them, if let's say it's a Saturday, hey, what do you typically hit on Saturday? Oh, back. I'm usually shoulders. Typically I'm back on Wednesday, but I can flip that. I'll hit shoulders Wednesday so I can hit back with you on Saturday or whatever the case may be. I don't really care. Now, if I'm in prep, um, I may, depending on where I'm at in prep, I might say, hey, coach really wants me at this, this on this day, da da da, whatever it may be. Do you mind hitting this with me? And then I'll hit, whatever you got going on next time. I feel it out. I'm really not a big stickler. If they're like, oh, I really was hoping to hit this. All right, cool. Like I can move some things around and it's not going to change my week if I hit back on Tuesday instead of Saturday or vice versa. So for me, it's really not a big deal. I just go depending on who did what last time. If I followed their program last time, I'd be like, hey, you mind hitting shoulders with me this go around or whatever. So that's kind of how
Yeah.
I look at it.
Yeah, I'm the same exact way. If I'm in prep, I'm not changing a thing. I'm not changing the time
Yeah.
I'm training. I'm not changing the amount of meals I have before I'm training or after I'm training. Those things in prep do not change for me. Currently, I don't have a set training partner, so everything is kind of me,
Hmm.
which happens at times. But um, I do have friends that I intermittently train with. Chase and I will meet. We have a gym halfway in between us, right? So we'll meet there sometimes. And all we do is, um, hey, dude, you want to train on Saturday? Sure. What do you want to hit? Well, I was going to do this. Okay. Yeah, I'll make that work. I
Yep.
normally always just go with what the other person was
Same.
going to do.
Yep.
Um, and unless I'm in prep. But otherwise, I always just go with what the other person's gonna do, because I don't wanna cause them any anxiety of them having to move their plan around, because it's
Hmm.
easy for me to move my plan around, right?
Yep.
Like I said, prep is different. I won't keep beating that to death, but I don't change a thing during prep. But yeah, like, um, just when we were at the Arnold, I just kind of trained when I could.
Hmm.
And that's that. And I still got all my training in. And, um, I train with clients here and there. Hey, Tommy, I'm having issues bringing up my back, or I'm having issues bringing up my whatever. Okay, cool. I'll come train it with you. And so I'll just move my days around so I can accommodate that muscle group for them. Um, pretty simple stuff.
Yep.
But yeah, I always tend to lean towards accommodating the other person, you know?
Same. Yeah. And don't again, if you're not in prep, don't be so fixed on having things so structured that it stops you from having fun, because that's really
Yeah.
what all this is about. To take it back from what we first talked about, it's all about having fun. And if you can't move a couple of things around to go train with a friend or somebody for one day, then you need to reevaluate where your priorities
Yeah,
are at. If
well,
that throws you off so much. Now again, this is outside of prep. If it's in prep,
right.
prep is prep, I get it.
Yep.
But outside of that, if that throws you off so much, you need to take an internal look at yourself.
Yeah. Well, it's fun because I love training with someone else
Yeah.
because, um, all right, cool, Devin, you pick the next movement. And
Hmm.
you might pick something I've not done before and it feels good. And I'm like, wow, maybe I might add this into my training. I never even thought about doing this.
And that's
Um,
another good point, is just because somebody picks a day, and that's a lot of times when I train with a buddy that's about an hour and a half away from me, we'll meet up in
yeah,
between, is we'll just pick a body part and
that's what
then
we do. Yep.
yep, and then we'll go lift for lift. So he'll be like, okay, I'd like to do the I'll start with this, then I'll pick the next one. And we both have similar processes in how we do things, as far as like compounds first, then getting into isolations. Um, and so it makes it fun because, like you
Yeah.
said, then you're bringing up things that I might not have done before or that I'm not that good at. And so it pushes you.
Yeah. Or maybe you're meeting them at their gym and they're more familiar with the typical stuff they like to do. And they're like, hey,
Yep.
let's try out this. Um, but yeah, at any time I train with someone, I like to alternate, like, hey, you pick the next movement, I'll pick the next
Hmm.
one, blah, blah, blah. You just roll with that. You just go. That's the best thing is training with someone else. It's so much fun
Oh yeah.
because it doesn't always line up because everyone's so busy. Our schedules are all crazy. So when you get the opportunity, when your friend is in town, dude, your program doesn't matter. Go train with your friend. You'll never get that memory back. You'll never get to do that again. It's like
Exactly.
all those that's what makes all this stuff worth it is sharing those workouts with other people. And like it's a culture. That's what all this is supposed to be about.
Absolutely. I love it. Well, that does it for this episode. We'll wrap it there. Tommy, tell the people how they can find you if they want to get a hold of you.
Yep. Tommy John Coaching on Instagram, TommyJohnCoaching.com to inquire for coaching. You can inquire through Instagram as well. And join the Chase Irons Discord. I'm a moderator over there. I do a lot of my coaching. Um, I answer a lot of questions like this with live videos, and I'll post them in there. Um, so that's another good spot to get information from. So, how about you, Devin?
Absolutely. So you can find me on Instagram, dgrow39, or you can check out the website at nxtlevel-training.com or shoot me an email at devon@nxtlevel-training.com. That does it for another episode of Beyond the Bar with Devin Grogans and Tommy John, and we will catch you guys next time.
Thank you, guys.